Welcome back to the R&B Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Miss Regina B, and I am joined alongside my lovely co-host, CEO Britt Nicole. Go ahead, Britt.
So thank you again for joining us. We are having an amazing time entertaining you folks and ourselves. So Regina, we are talking this time about
Functional discourse.
Yes.
Functional discourse. I think that discourse, debate, argument, anything of that nature is always seen as such an ugly thing, right?
Yep.
We have to be oppositional, we have to be fighting or anything of that nature. But discourse can actually be healthy and it should be encouraged.
Yes.
So I wanted to dive into that whole idea of discourse, when to lean in, when to pull back.
Yep.
Any funny anecdotes, things of that nature. So as always, I want to go ahead and let you start off.
Yeah, and I think, this is another topic I talked about not too long ago at an event that I was a panelist for. Disruption, healthy disruption. It is historically beneficial to be disruptive,
Right.
In places that it's required. And I think, as humans, we don't evolve, we don't change, we don't grow, we don't progress without this functional discourse, without going against the grain at some point and challenging thought, which is a big concept of just, our flow for our podcast and just, welcoming our listeners to join in and hash out topics and challenge our thoughts. It's healthy. It's growth promoting.
Right.
And I think it's good for friendships too. Like Absolutely. That's another thing, we've been friends for so long. And I honestly, it's crazy. A lot of people say this, but I think for us, it's really factually true. I don't think we've ever had a falling out. Have we?
No.
No? Right. So but in contrary, we have disagreed multiple, many of times.
Almost every time we're together. Need to make that clear. Almost every time we're together, we disagree.
Yes, we disagree about a lot of things. And so that in and of itself goes to show that just because you disagree or just because you feel differently about anything, perspectives, situations, whatever, that it doesn't have to be negative. It can definitely just be authenticity. It's
and
just
a difference of opinion. And I think that's where the functional part comes in, right?
Right.
And I think part of the reason why we've never had that issue is because we've always had basic respect, right?
Yep.
When I sit there and I roll the tape back on any type of situation where, things kind of went left, there was always some respect lost somewhere, somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And that's usually where the issues come in. So even when it comes to ideas of, discourse and things of that nature, I think that we're often bred to believe that agreeability is respect, and it's not necessarily the case. And I think especially we see that with children, right?
Yeah.
So I think back to my kids and things of that nature, like, for instance, when they would come to me when they were much smaller and they would say, I don't like so-and-so, Benny, or Benny is annoying, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
It's like, as a parent, your visceral reaction is to say, don't say that, it's mean.
Right.
Hold up.
Right. I'm always a why person. I'm
why?
Like, why?
Why?
What's tea? Because I want to know.
Exactly. Why don't you like
Yes.
Benny? Well, Benny comes into the classroom and he knocks everybody's papers off before anything, and we can't get stuff done. Like, in my head, Benny's a little shit.
Not a little shit, though.
I understand.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
I understand why you might not find, Benny to be the best person to be around, and that's okay. If you don't want to play with Benny, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you got to respect them,
Yeah.
right? You can't be mean to him. And are you going to go up to Benny and say, oh, I don't like you? No, that's mean unnecessarily.
Right.
Are you going to say, I find
right.
you annoying? No, that's mean unnecessarily. What you can do is remove yourself.
Right.
And I think that we get stuck on those ideas of it being either agreeable or just disrespectful early on, where we aren't comfortable enough to find that happy medium where we can stand on how we feel.
Yeah, that goes back to those extreme all or nothings that we were talking about. Like, there's definitely a gray area in most things in life, and we have to find, happiness in finding that space, because like, let's be clear, everything has a time and a place, and, there's room for us to feel and for us to be and reflect on what our true selves are. So
right. And I think that people are just not comfortable with conversation in general, right?
And confrontation.
That part, right?
Yeah.
So I often refer back to my kids because they're almost kind of like a mini case study where you can kind of just see the way that their mind works and the way that they respond to different things of their nature. And there was a friend of mine, we had gotten into a conversation of sorts. And I had told her that I'm very open and honest with my kids about racism,
Yeah.
what that means, what it might look like, what it might feel like.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
And I also introduced them, especially because we're in a very mixed neighborhood, to the idea that somebody might really like to be around you and in your space and still be racist.
Very much so.
You know, so I think that people have a hard time digesting that as adults. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but they cool,
Yeah.
they not racist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and I don't want my child growing up with a complex where they're being ostracized and they think I did something. No, this person just may have an inherent issue
Yeah.
with the way that who you are fundamentally.
Yeah, fundamentally, exactly. Or even just, you know, crossing that stereotypical borderline. Just because you're not mean or ignorant doesn't mean that you're not racist or that you're not biased.
Exactly.
Or look at a certain race or gender or whatever as a stereotype of your personal picture of what you think that might look like.
Exactly. Remember, I used to always say, I don't know if you remember, but there was this woman that I used to work with years ago when I used to work in Nordstrom. Older woman, sweet as pie to me. Like when I was pregnant with Shai, that's how long ago it was. So she's about to turn 13. But when I was pregnant with her, she would buy like little baby clothes and like the little globes from Things Remembered, all types of stuff that she would buy.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet. And I used to always say she's the sweetest racist that I know.
Right, girl. Because sometimes they get it messed up. Yeah.
When the things that she would say were just laced with a certain level of just hate.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
And she's referring to like black clients that are coming into the store and things like that. And there was just always this overall layer. And even with the compliments that she gave, right? It's almost kind of like oh, you're so well spoken.
Passive racism. Yeah, like what you mean?
You're so well spoken is a compliment to a 4-year-old that sounds like a 10-year-old. I'm a grown woman, bitch. I'm supposed to know how to speak.
Right, exactly, exactly. Like I'm gonna need you to not be shocked by that fact.
Exactly.
Like what makes you think I wouldn't be?
Exactly.
How about that? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that especially when you have people that move into these neighborhoods where we're a little bit more mixed and stuff like that, we almost feel guilty about standing on the way that we feel and seeing the racism for what it is sometimes, especially when things like that come about. I actually even had a situation that came about with a group of friends that I had found myself into. And most of the women were black, and then there was one white woman, right? And when she first came in, I'm like, she's cool, whatever. But over time, she started to leave a very negative taste in my mouth with a lot of the things that she would say. She would say things in relation to us to be around, like it would make her feel cool. Like, who said I ain't from the hood? And yeah, because I'm from the hood. Da 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 da.
Yeah, unnecessary.
I'm sorry, what about this group of married women who all own homes in the suburbs and are big on their kids' little league teams?
Right.
Screams that we would identify with the hood.
Right.
I'm confused. I'm genuinely confused.
Right.
But she would say things like that all the time. And at first I was just like, you know what? This they homie. We going whatever it is, what it is, and I'm going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until one night when she had come out with everybody in like a big group. It was a good time for most of us. She did the absolute most. And then when we were in the car on the way home, she had the nerve to say the N-word. She thought it was cute.
No.
She picked up her phone and she pretended to call out from work. And she said, I will tell them, ha, ha, ha. I can't come in tomorrow. I'm out with my niggas.
No, she did not.
So it was a mixed event. It gets better. It was a mixed event.
Did y'all screech on the brakes and give her whiplash and bop her head into the back of that seat?
Listen, it was a mixed event. So the husbands were there. Marcus was in the car with me. He said, you lost your race.
Girl.
And then on top of that, the type of night it was, we were drinking, so he went on like this
whole rant. Well, good. I'm glad.
It was necessary.
Very necessary. Very much so.
It was necessary.
Very much so, because that's completely out of line.
I'm not racist. I don't care. You can't say it, and it's almost like this sense of entitlement that comes along with saying the N-word, that they want to be able to say it so bad.
I feel like they crossed the threshold.
Yes. Y'all rap it.
Yes.
Y'all do this. Y'all do that. It's just because you're used to a certain level of entitlement that how dare we tell you that you can't say this.
Right. Or they feel like if they consider themselves not racist, that they're in a safe zone to say it. No, you're not. It's not even. It's like a man.
My coworkers say that I should have been black, or my coworkers say I'm black.
That's bullshit. First of all, that's just bullshit. But that's like, I compare, like, when white people ask me or have ever asked me in the past,
Right.
like, why, like, help them understand why it's so offensive for them to say it outside of the obvious, like, because they
Right.
feel like, oh, this was so long ago and this is a new culture and a new time. No,
Wait,
first
I
of
want to
all,
pause when you said this so long ago. You
yes,
know, Ruby Bridges just turned 70, right?
I know. Don't get me started on Ruby Bridges. I know.
Sis just turned
Girl,
70. Chew on them pineapples, and next
not
time that
even.
they
We
like
don't
to
even
say
have
that
to
it's so
go back
long
that
ago.
far. We don't have to go back that far. George Floyd just got
We
his
still
neck.
no, but my thing is they must just
Crushed
skip over
on.
that and act like, you know,
Girl,
these images in the black and white, and I think that it helps to kind of
yes,
separate the times that they were in black and white and all these stories that we heard of civil
yeah,
rights that are all posted all over our schools. Our
mm-hmm.
well, not anymore,
Yeah.
but they happened so long ago. 70. How many of our current lawmakers are 70?
How many of our current politicians are KKK members? Let's be clear.
We don't want to have that conversation.
We don't want to have that conversation, because let's be clear, at the end of the day, but I, was going into the concept of explaining, trying to get them to understand outside of that, because that's a
Right.
reason in of its own why
Right.
they shouldn't be able to say it. But our own separate reason is simply that you're not a part of that community. So it's
Right.
disrespectful. It's very similar to men using the word bitch towards us.
Yeah.
We call each other bitch all day. I could be like, yes, bitch, da 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 da. And it's very much not taken as disrespect unless it's said in
Right.
a disrespectful way. But if a man says that to us, hold up now, because you're not a woman. So you're not, this is not your space to say.
But that's where you get
And
into
so,
the idea of people just being purposely obtuse. Like, you're jumping over the
Right.
point because you just don't like my answer.
Exactly.
You don't like my answer. And the fact
Exactly.
is that it's just not okay. You
Because
have to
I
be
said so.
okay
How about
with
that?
that.
Because
you
I said
have to
so.
be okay with that. This is one thing that you cannot have.
Right.
And that goes into like the conversation of people saying things like, I don't see color.
Yeah,
I hate that statement.
it's bullshit.
It is.
More bullshit.
It is, because I always say that to say that you don't see color is to completely ignore our differences that should be honored, respected, celebrated,
Right.
and acknowledged.
Right.
You know,
Good
to sit
and
here
bad,
and say,
and yeah.
I don't see color and people are people, that's just not true.
It's not.
I walk through this world differently than a white person walks through this world. I'm received differently than you are.
Right.
Things of that nature. That's how privilege works and things of
Right.
that nature. You have the privilege of not knowing that when I'm in certain places, if I'm walking through the Rite Aid, I got to jiggle my keys as I'm walking through so that they don't follow me and thinking I'm trying to steal something. True story. Used to do that when I worked at my old job.
It's real. It's real. It's a whole laundry list worth of things that come along with the Black experience,
Yeah.
period. So, like you said, if you don't see color, that means you also don't see our strife.
Exactly.
And you don't acknowledge the oppression that we go through. So it's just like, no. That in and of itself is ignorance.
It's just different.
Yeah, it's not it.
It's just different. It's just different. And I think to discredit or to act like it doesn't exist is just, it's completely unfair.
Yeah.
It's completely unfair.
Oh, and let me share this experience. So you know how you were saying about like a white person saying, "Oh, you're so well spoken." So I went to the department store to buy a cologne, and the person that was helping us, I had the girls with me, and the person that was helping us was like an older white woman. And Taylor, you know the kids, they always dancing and stuff like this. TikTok, whatnot.
Right.
Taylor is in there TikTok dancing on her phone, doing this. And so the older white lady was like, "Oh," she was like, "You're good at dancing." She was like, "Are you a dancer? Do you do dance?" And Taylor was like, "Yes, I do. I take dance class." And she was like, "Oh," she was like, "What dance do you take?" She was like, "Hip hop." And I just got so frustrated. I was like, I know she did. I said, let me bring it back. Let me bring it back.
Now you a bitch when you call her a racist raggedy hoe.
Right. Like you, right. Seriously. Because no, like, where did you just equate the two? Did you just randomly pull hip hop out of the crack of your ass?
Yes.
Because why?
Yes.
Because she's Black and
The
you're
answer is yes.
and you're associating hip hop with Black. I mean, I get the association of hip hop with Black, but don't assume that that's all we know.
Yeah.
Like, there's Black ballerinas, there's Black modern and, contemporary dancers and everything else. Like, don't disclude us from other areas because you don't see us in those areas. Like,
well, you choose not to see us in these areas,
exactly.
right? Because we had gotten to a point. I mean, we don't know where that's going to go now with the Uno reverse that's happening politically. But
even start.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point now where the talent had become undeniable, and we were in certain spaces and things of that nature. But again, it comes back to that idea of saying, oh no, like there needs to be one that reigns total and supreme around here. So in order for the one to come to the front, somebody has to move to the back. And we're just working backwards in so many different ways, but that's the importance of having these true conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I think back, I know I relate a lot of things to like work and things of that nature, because those are really the places where you find yourself with other people who are unlike you.
And we spend a lot of time
right?
as well. Yeah.
There's nowhere quite like the workspace where you run into so many different people that are different demographics than you are.
Right. Outside of friends, family, and the people that you intentionally align yourself
Exactly.
with. Yeah.
So my old job, way back before I had stopped working, there was one girl that worked there. I adored her. I'm going to call her Angela for the sake of this, right?
Okay, for the sake of this.
So Angela was a young white girl. She's probably like her early to mid 20s, somewhere about like 25, 26 or something like that. And she had told me that she was from like one of these really, really deep racist areas around like lower Delaware, where it's like very rural and things of that nature. And her family, she even told me straight up, was just very racist.
Yeah.
And then there was myself and my one other coworker, Black girls that were mainly running the office. And we would have these conversations, and she became very, very inquisitive, and she would ask us straight up about different things. And she's like, holy shit, I didn't know anything about like these disparities in education and things like that. Because my other coworker was from Chester. I was from Philly and things of that nature. So we knew what our schools looked like.
Yeah.
And when we were having like these shared jokes, like, oh yeah, them hallways that you couldn't go down because they was falling apart and they was chained up, ha ha ha. And oh yeah, you couldn't take textbooks home because it wasn't enough. And then in the class you had to share them, ha ha ha. She'd be like, wait, what?
Right.
She was genuinely confused.
Completely removed.
But that was very much the norm in both of our school districts. That was a normal shared experience that we all knew about and thought was normal.
Right.
But for her, that would be unacceptable. So things like that, all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't until I had the conversation with her that I learned, oh shit, Emmett Till is not common American history. That is something that Black people know.
Yeah.
Especially because it was such an integral part to our American culture in general.
Yeah, you would think, but you know, it's not surprising because look at what they're doing now to history.
Literally removing it.
We don't realize, but see, this is the thing. This is the thing that I think that people also have to think about, is that what we're seeing in our current lifetime and our current right now is them removing Black history, period, right? But our ancestors, our grandparents and great-grandparents have, over the course of the years, watched them remove selectively different parts of history that we never even knew existed, were never taught, didn't know. And still to this day, that's why you had that trend on social media, like I was today years old when I found out.
Right.
Because there's still information coming out till this day that was already removed from our curriculum.
But this is why I love, like, I know I made the joke about TikTok University. This is where you have to use social media as a tool, right?
Yep.
Have you seen about how they started that trend on TikTok University? What is it? I don't remember if it was Hillman that they used from like a different world or something, something of that effect on TikTok, where a whole bunch of Black academics had started doing virtual classes on TikTok, spreading information, skills, talents,
I didn't see it only because I haven't
like that. And
the TikTok.
I love stuff like that. Even though I'm not on TikTok per se, like I've seen it through other social media avenues. And I love that idea, because what that should do is inspire you to do more research, right? So it's almost kind of like, I know one thing that I love to refer back to is Plato's allegory of the cave, right? That was something that I studied years ago.
Yes, period.
And what it is that if you're born, live, and die in a cave, you don't know that the sun exists.
Right. You don't know
somebody
anything
talking
of your
about
reality.
The sun just makes zero sense to you. You're only familiar with the cave. So I like things like that, because it can expose you to something, but it's up to you to actually do your research. Your research should never live and die on a social media platform. But once they open that door,
it ignites the awareness in the first place. Yeah, social media is super major for awareness. I feel like it's a tool and a beast in and of itself, where it can be used either way. But I know for a fact when it comes to things that they don't, and by they, I mean the powers that be in the government, in the country, and things like that, people of positions of power, that they don't want us to know or find out, it's almost uncontrollable on social media, because they can't get a grasp on it the way they really, really would like to.
But speaking of, with the TikTok ban that they tried to do, it pissed me off how many people were just like, oh, who cares, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to that idea that I always say when it comes to my stances on certain things. It all comes down to the habit of being able to maintain civil liberties and not being able to pick and choose what you feel people should be able to have access to or not, because that's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
So many people, it amazes me how many people are just like, oh, well, who cares about TikTok? These kids don't need to be online dancing, blah, 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 blah. But like I said, at the same breath, how many people were able to say hashtag TikTok taught me, right?
Right.
So many things that you did not know. We thought that social media connected people until we met TikTok. Holy hell.
Yeah, yeah.
That one connected
And
people
you know how
so
many
much
people's
quicker and faster.
livelihoods are attached to it, you know, and it's not like
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on that particular portion as well, because I do believe that as business owners and just creators, there's a level of ownership that we should just by strategy maintain
Right.
outside of places that we don't have ownership, like a
Right.
TikTok. That's just a smart and, you know, conscious thing for us to do. However, just because we all haven't done it doesn't mean that we should be fried and burnt to hell.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, this is people's livelihood. And so just as much as we would care about a shift in the economy, and when it comes to a recession or when it comes to jobs and things like that, everybody wants to be on the edge of their seat.
Right.
But for the entrepreneur community and the creator community and things like that, this is our economy.
Exactly.
And so there's a respect that has to be given, that just because it doesn't directly affect you or your household, that you have to be able to digress enough to respect those that it does affect,
Right.
or else we're just a seriously dysfunctional
But it comes back to
society.
that whole idea: stand for something, fall for anything.
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to just say, "Oh, it's not my fight," whatever.
That's crazy.
You
Yeah,
got to
until
realize
it hits
that
home.
at the end of the day, you got a dog in any fight.
Right.
We all rely on each other. So that's within our country. That's also internationally, right? Where a lot of the things that are happening politically just seem just very, I don't even know what the word is that I'm looking for, but it's just poor choices all the way around, because they don't understand that we live in a global economy, a global society.
Yep.
At this point in the world, we're not a self-sustaining nation. We never have been, we never will be.
Right.
We rely heavily on imports, exports, global information, trade. That is the way that the world is designed.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so
Yep.
to have the arrogance to believe that overnight, for
That
some
you could
reason,
just
we
cut.
should just be
Yeah.
self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Even resource-wise, if we wanted to be, we chose tomorrow to say, okay, you know what? We're going to fully invest in America first, and we are going to be fully self-sustaining. We don't have all the natural resources that we need to be truly self-sustaining.
Yeah, that I agree with. I do think, economy wise though, that there's a lot of choices that our country makes where we outsource a hell of a lot more than what we should.
Agreed.
And not just for the money, or for, in my book, why we shouldn't, not just for the money, but also just for the process. Like there's things that our American farmers have access to that would reduce the preservatives we use, that will reduce the chemicals that we pump into foods because of how far they have to get it,
Right.
because of customs and how they process things. By the time you're talking about shelf to table, by the time farm to table, by the time we get things from where we get them from to the time it meets our table is sometimes 2 months.
Right.
Which is ridiculous, because the process in between is so altered and so jacked up that then we wondering why the hell we got cancer and everything else.
Right.
But we have some of these things right here. But to your point, there are things that we don't have just geographically. It's not produced
Right.
here. It's not found
It's
here.
not possible.
Right. We cannot pick up a bed of land and
Right.
drop it here to produce certain things that are just produced on a different part of the globe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I don't know. Hopefully one day, sooner rather than later, we'll be able to figure that out.
Right.
And they'll understand that at the end of the day, we are a global economy. So thank you for hanging with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Thank you for coming back to join us. And so as we get back into it, I am going to give you this disclaimer. Our next topic, I am freshly briefed on through my homegirl. And as she said, I am one of the most under a rock publicists that I ever did see, that she ever did know. And so I'm going to let her kick the topic off, but it's definitely ridiculous.
Yes. So as we're on the topic of, discourse, things of that nature, how to approach, I guess, confrontation or whatever might be seen as confrontation.
Yeah.
It recently broke in the news that Just Hilarious felt away about the other young lady, Lauren. I almost lost her name. About Lauren coming in and taking her spot, right? So the whole argument was that Jess had just signed on to the Breakfast Club. A lot of people had mixed feelings about it from the beginning. And 3 minutes into her joining the team, she had announced her pregnancy.
Yeah.
And then when she had left for maternity leave, Lauren had stepped in and taken her role. Now, Jess was not a journalist. She never has been. It seems like she never will be.
Right. Nor does it seem like she has a desire to be.
Seems like she might be a bit growth averse.
She ain't trying to read right.
She ain't trying to read right. Okay? She ain't trying to read right. So anyway, Lauren's a journalist. So apparently she used to work for TMZ, and then it clicks once you hear that, because it's like, oh, she gives a little bit more of that energy like it used to be with Angela Yee, who was on there forever, where she's asking those probative questions. She's doing things that make sense. She's actually reporting and reading off information in a way that makes sense, whereas Just Hilarious was, pretty much just doing her thing that she was accustomed to doing as a social media personality.
Right.
Where you're not really running
structured. It's not structured. Yeah, the format is off. Yeah.
Not structured. So people took well to Lauren. Long story short, Jess comes back from maternity leave. Lauren isn't gone. So she stayed on. She still reports more. It had gotten to the point where I actually thought that Jess didn't work there anymore. I thought that she had gotten to the point where she was only doing cameos because Lauren was there so much. Yeah. So Jess jumped on live with her little hair tied up.
Child.
Yes, all upset, saying that the girl took her spot and the men didn't defend her, and now she's being seen as a villain. And I'm just like, ooh, this is a lot. Right. They bring them on, both Jess and Lauren, on air at the Breakfast Club to discuss it all. And Jess, the one clip that took away from me the most was that Jess was upset at Lauren because apparently Jess told Lauren, shut up and hush while on air. Lauren didn't like it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And instead of addressing it right then and there while on air, while filming for her show and her job,
because she didn't fight it out in a cat fight.
She chose to
on
pull her
air
aside later in an office to have a close conversation one-on-one and tell her that she didn't respect it. And Jess was now on air addressing that and said she felt like it was corny that she had the nerve to pull her to the side in some office. If you got a problem with the way I'm saying it, tell me now.
Like, no, don't. First of all, nobody wants to assist in making you any more viral than you already are.
It sounds like you like drama.
Yeah, but that's all it is.
Just with the mess, right? So it goes into that whole idea of discourse. How do you approach it? What do you do? Things of that nature. And I was actually taken aback when I was looking at the comments where I saw so many people saying, oh, it sounds like Jess is being gaslit. And I was like, how?
Yeah, that's crazy. How?
By her own admission, this girl didn't like something on air and she chose to pull her to the side in a closed conversation.
Not to mention, let's not give people the gratification to see two black women go at it on air when we already have so much stigma.
You chose to bring it to a public space.
Yes. If she wanted to be now, what I will say is if it was me, I would have snapped back on air 100%. However, the fact that Lauren didn't is perfectly okay and well respected because that took a lot of composure. It took a lot of self-control. And I'm sure it took a lot of inner woosah because not only is it embarrassing to be disrespected on national air, whether it's TV, radio, wherever, it's an embarrassment to be disrespected in that kind of way, but also to be disrespected in such a way that's so distasteful for you to not, answer to your reflexes that would normally be like, to give you the urge to snap back. Yeah. So I commend Lauren for her composure and for her class in deciding to handle it behind scenes, not to mention when dealing with a major brand or dealing with a corporate setting or whatever the case may be, there are guidelines for said conflicts.
And what she said, Lauren actually even said, she said, I'm not sure about you, but when it comes to me and my workspace, this is my work. And the way that I choose to present myself, I choose not to go back and forth. If I have an issue, I find that for my level of professionalism, I prefer to approach you privately, which she did the right thing. Yeah. And I think that I don't know
She sure
what it
did.
is, but
She
it
sure
seems like
did.
people today don't know how to communicate.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. If both of you are here and you both can touch and agree that she pulled you to the side instead of snapping back at you and
Right.
you still have a
Escalating the
problem,
issue.
girl, you are the
Yes.
problem.
Because before you know it, it would have been an all full on brawl on like for what?
I think
For
she
what?
wanted it.
For
I think she
what?
wanted it, and I think that she is pushing it to get to a point where someone has to choose a side. And I don't think that she understands that she will lose.
Well, the people have already chosen, baby, or else she wouldn't be upset.
That's why
let's
a
just be
hit
clear.
dog is gonna holler.
Let's be clear on that. The people have chosen, because I believe that if the people didn't feel that Lauren was doing a better job, that they wouldn't have kept her on air for the extended period of time, and just wouldn't have been so butthurt and upset.
Yeah.
Like, for real, what it boils down to is that you are not okay with seeing another woman win, even if it means that they have to take your place or do better than you.
Yeah.
And that's just as simple as what that's
And you have
given.
to know that what's for you is for you.
Right.
So if she came and took your spot, baby, that's on you. You should have worked harder. What they say, never let a freshman take your place.
Exactly.
Right? You should have been working. She was working on her craft. She understood that she was going to be on this show, and she worked on her craft. You chose not to. You chose to be loud and crass, and you also chose to offend other people regularly without caring. Right? So she had a habit and a reputation for offending other people regularly.
Yeah. And it was an
now,
issue. I remember that because she, what was it? It was Suki. It was Suki or Sexy Red. One of them that came on there that she was just going hard on.
There was a couple of them. There was a couple of them. There's another podcast that I listened to that I really, really, really like. She offended that girl and called her a drunk. All kinds of stuff. And these are things that you're saying on air.
But how is it that you can't tolerate criticism and not only just criticism, but classy criticism when the people or the ratings show that, honey, you're just not doing as good as you think you are.
But this is what I say.
You can't take it.
If you can't take it, you better not dish it. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. So I wanted to spin a block on something else that you had said earlier, where you had said that I would have corrected her right then and there. Like, good on her for her grace.
Not that it was right, but I just know me. I would have been out of control.
I agree with you.
I would have been irritated.
I probably, if somebody, shut up. Who you trying to shut?
Right, on set too. On set, like.
But once upon a time, that wasn't me. I was Lauren. We're going to be calm. And I honestly probably wouldn't even say anything in private the first time. I probably would say something in private the second time, right? And I had gotten to a point now, and I think it's just being older and seeing things play out time and time and time again, where I'm like, don't play with me.
Right.
You know?
Shut it down.
And it gets to be funny because it's weird. It's weird. It's almost like a growing pain when you're used to being so docile for most of your life. And then after a while, you're a little bit more out with your chest, but it feels awkward. It feels wrong. It feels abnormal.
Yeah,
but at some point, you have to know that you're correct. And you also have to know that a lot of people will bulldoze you. They will keep going. They will keep arguing you down. Just because they know that they can.
Yes, it's called boundaries. And this is a big place, I think, for women of our age group, because, you know, we're right at that between 30 and 40 age group. And I think that's when boundaries are the most challenging, because we're coming from a place where, as our generation, as teenagers and young adults, our boundaries were kind of laughed at, because it was like, girl, you ain't even been through nothing. What kind of boundaries? It's like telling a kid, like, oh, the kids say you getting on my nerves. You ain't got no damn nerves. Like, what? So, you know, we're crossing that threshold where we've got some experience under our belt. We've been through some things. We've done some things. And so boundaries are becoming more and more and more like impactful on our lives, and we're learning over time how to and how not to enforce them. And so, you know, for some of us, like yourself, like you said, who have just been more conservative or more, you know, less outspoken, less loud about what we want and feel, these are the times where I think that shift is coming. For sure. For me, I've always been, and you know, because we grew up together, but I've always been a respectful kid, a respectable youth. But my internal person, I've always been a challenger. I've always been disruptive. I've always challenged ideas and thoughts, and, well, how come this? And, well, why not that? Well, if it's like this, well, why don't we do this? And
it's
so necessary. I've always been outspoken in that way. And so as it started to apply to personal matters, it would be the same way. And so instantly, if it was a situation of disrespect, like, my brain is already calculating, like, that was this, and she shouldn't have said that, and blah, blah, blah,
Right.
and what you gonna do about it, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's a purge for me to be like, what? Like,
Yes. Calculation says no. Not today.
Try me, okay? Try Jesus, not me. But yeah, so like, no, seriously, I commend her for her self-control though, because what we do have to remember is that this is a multimedia platform. It is the #1 more radio show, and so because you have the power to avoid the world seeing another 2 Black women go at it in a disgusting manner, then why not? You know what I'm saying?
And you know
It's
what's
just
funny?
unnecessary.
It makes me think of like, who are you talking to? Who do you have in your corner? Who told you that this was a good idea to go on that live? Or is it that you're just a renegade, that you're just going and doing things like that? And if you are just doing that without talking to anyone, find a friend, find a therapist, do something. Because someone has to talk you down off the ledge. That kind of reminds me of this one post that I saw not too long ago referring to Khalees and like the whole Beyonce thing from the Renaissance album. When Khalees got on live and she was blasting Beyonce, told some, oh, well, she's stealing my song. Nobody came and asked me for my song, blah, 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 blah. And she yapped herself right out of an opportunity because Khalees didn't own the rights to the song. So not only did Beyonce not sample the song, it was a very small interpolation, right?
Which was probably outside of legal requirement.
And then on top of that, even if she wanted to sample the full song, she didn't need permission from Khalees because she doesn't own it. So even though she used that inspiration,
loud and wrong.
You know what she did? Beyonce added her as a writer and credited her for that song. So now she was getting paid for the song that she don't even own and she doesn't even get paid for.
Lord have mercy.
Baby, give horse mouth. Kick it,
right?
Like that's all you're doing.
Just put your foot in your mouth. And you know who? You know what this reminds me of? Did you see? So I have been under a rock, but I haven't been that far under a rock because I did just see a recent current event. I did see a recent current event. So did you see the clip going around where the girls that were running track and the one girl hit the girl with the baton?
Oh, she clocked her.
She clocked her upside her head. You know what it's giving? You know what it's giving? It's giving just hilarious. You were mad because she was winning,
and you're like,
and you was like, I did it. And then you want to turn around and cry about it, like y'all are not supporting me. Because did you see her? Did you see that sad sorry?
Oh, I saw it. The snot, the tears, the everything. And y'all don't understand. I would never do that.
And
we saw you do that, boo.
Right. And I don't like taking shots at parents. But what parent allowed your kid to get up there and cry like that and not admit you're wrong?
She was right behind her.
What parent allowed you to do that?
Like a supportive, she's mine.
Because if that was my child, it would be either you're going to go up there and you're going to apologize and you're going to admit you're wrong, or you're not going to go up there. You're not doing an interview. You will not get up there and just completely disregard what everybody just
But that's accountability. That's a lost art.
It's ridiculous.
How many people don't believe in accountability, period? They teach their kids that they're right. When everybody's right, everybody's wrong, right?
So they whooping their ass. So your kids whooping your ass. Because that's how it always ends up.
Stop. But I love me a good comparison from a random show. And I'm a nerd, so I like Marvel and those weird Marvel shows. So I was watching Agent Carter one day, and one of the episodes they had was talking about what happened when there was like some virus that made everybody believe that they were right totally and completely. All hell broke loose, right? So they pull up to the theater and everybody's just bloody massacre. Everybody's dead. They're trying to figure out like what caused this. They killed each other. That's what happens when everybody's right. That's what causes war. That's what causes discourse. That's what causes everything else. And people don't have any accountability for anything. For anything.
And everybody can't be right because it all can't coexist at the same time. It just don't work like that. It's a combustion. It's not going to work.
People feel like it's not okay that we have different viewpoints. They don't understand that there's beauty in that it's necessary. Even like with like the whole DEI drawback and things of that nature. Like some places get it. Some places even get that it's deeper than just saying, oh, okay, representation. It's not about just our representation, but understanding that a different perspective might be your biggest asset. Like I know when Jalen Hurts did an interview and someone had asked him like, Dag, you've got a Black female manager, you've got this person that's a woman, you keep a lot of women around you. Why do you do that? And what he said made perfect sense. He said that a woman understands things differently than I understand things. So I already have my perspective. I need her to fill in my blind spots. And that's what the beauty is in having diverse voices, diverse eyes.
Yes.
Everything on deck at the same
Because
time.
as humanity, we all have strong suits, assets, and things that contribute to the best final outcome. And this is the part where it goes back to what you said in the beginning, is that we are a very much intertwined globe where we rely on each other, we need each other, and this was designed by God. It was just the way that we were designed. Man, woman, child, adult, everybody has to work together.
Right.
These children, how many times have we been in stressful environments, and as adults we can't tolerate it. We're at our maximum, we're burnt out, and a kid comes in with their innocent, colorful energy,
right,
and it just reduces that stress instantly. And it's like, this is why these things are needed. So, it's something that I think that we're going to continue to struggle with until the end of time, just because people just they're not receptive of collaboration on a mass level,
right,
and sometimes even on a minor level. But the more that we make ourselves aware of it, and the more that we practice it in our own lives, I think the better it'll be overall. And stop hating on your sister. Stop hating on your sister, Jess. If you see this ever, please stop hating on your sister. If she look like you, especially if she look like you, congratulate that woman and support her.
And work harder. If you're not feeling good,
period,
work harder, baby.
Period.
Push yourself to the top.
Period. Go back to the drawing board and read right.
Read right. On that note, we want to close it out. Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the R&B Podcast.